Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Zachary Dickinson here, and hope you all had a wonderful weekend. I am filming this on a Saturday, so whoever won the Super Bowl, go Patriots, go Seahawks. I don't really know. Whoever wins. Today we will continue what we started on Monday, or this past Monday, the most recent one in the series, which was breaking down the MCU Infinity Saga by each phase that has been currently out. So, MCU Infinity Saga has 3 phases. We did phase 1 first, now we're on to phase 2. Phase 1 had 6 films, phase 2 also has 6 films. Now, the breakdown of each film will be rather similar, just the only thing that'll be different is whether or not it's canon, because that was only because of the Incredible Hulk. The breakdown will be how integral is it to the overall main storyline of the saga, which is the Infinity Saga as a whole. Where where exactly is this movie in the timeline? Most of these will be in correspondence to how long after the Avengers or how long after the most recent movie prior to that. Then it will be my overall opinions. And so, without further ado, let's get into phase 2 of the MCU Infinity Saga. First one up is Iron Man 3. So, the first movie of phase 2 is Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3 is the first movie in phase 2. It takes place roughly 6 months after the Avengers. Roughly because the Avengers takes place in um like early early summer, late spring, like May or June of 2012, and Iron Man 3 takes place during Christmas time of late 2012. And so this takes place around Christmas time. And so, how integral is it? Well, this is the finale of the Iron Man trilogy, and we will only ever see Iron Man in other franchises inside the MCU. So this is very integral to wrap up the initial Iron Man storyline over the course of these first 3 movies. Now, this one does also take heavy inspiration from the events that happened in the Avengers, as Tony is suffering from PTSD of some of the things that happened, uh, especially from whenever he went to space and he lost oxygen, and so he has PTSD from that. And so now after the first 2, now we have the opinions. What is my opinions of these? Well, even though most don't really say that this is that good of a movie, or that I don't know. I think it's most people don't like this movie, and it's not really as good as 2 or 1. I say Iron Man 2 is the worst of them. I hold the opinion and belief that Iron Man 3 is a good movie, even though it also performed well at the box office as well. Um, the only bad part is Tony Stark is teased to be going against his arch nemesis. I believe his arch nemesis from the comics is the Mandarin, but that was a fake off, and I would have loved the Mandarin, as technology versus magic sounds very cool. Tony activated House Party towards the end of this, which is a protocol to destroy all non-essential Iron Man suits, which is basically he's going to have his suit that he evolves and develops over time, and he's going to have a few other knickknack suits for special occasions, like if the Hulk ever goes on a rampage. Um, so I do think that as I said, the this movie, Iron Man 3, I think is the second best movie of the trilogy. It is also in my top 10 MCU movies, as I do have them ranked. And so that is Iron Man 3. Next up, Thor the Dark World. Alright, so next up is Thor the Dark World. which is most certainly one of the downers of the MCU up to this point, as we've had mostly good movies if we ignore the Incredible Hulk, which basically does not exist in the MCU, but does exist in the MCU at the same time. Thor the Dark World takes place roughly around a year after the Avengers, or around 6 months after Iron Man 3. The first like 5 to 10 minutes occur right after the Avengers, but then we get a time skip. Jane Foster and most of the cast from the first Thor movie, including Thor, return for this movie. Jane Foster gets sucked in with the Reality Stone and gets pushed over to Asgard. And so this is the first movie where, as with the Tesseract, that was a major focus throughout Phase 1, being, I believe, a big part for Iron Man, partially. Not a big part for Iron Man, but a big part for some degree for Iron Man to a degree. A big part in the Avengers and Captain America: The First Avenger. We now deal, which that was the Space Stone, one of the 6 stones of the Infinity Stone. So Thor: The Dark World is one of the 2 movies in Phase 2 where we are beginning the exploration of some of the other 5 Infinity Stones that begin to take a larger role. So this the Reality Stone, and the Space Stone was in Phase 1. The other stone, which is the Power Stone, is in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. And so outside of Thor and Jane's reunion, the Reality Stone's introduction, and this being as a soft beginning of Thor's redemption arc, like similar, this film sucks. I'm not sugarcoating it. This film is abysmal. The beginning is good, but the execution towards the end and the plot overall should have been a lot better. But as a whole, this film just sucked. And it was poorly executed. The villain could have been done a lot better, but it was not. And so this is one of the worst MCU films. And for the longest time, up until Captain Marvel maybe, or something else in Phase 3, at the very least in the Infinity Saga as a whole, the Thor: The Dark World was widely regarded as the worst film in the MCU, or the second worst, depending on if you counted The Incredible Hulk. So, alright, so in Phase 2, since we're going by release of of each releases, we have Captain America: The Winter Soldier, what I regard as the best Captain America movie up to this point, including Captain America 4. This movie is in among my top 5 favorite MCU movies up to date, even up to and through most of the multiverse saga. And so this movie takes place roughly around 2 years after the Avengers, or 1 year after Thor: The Dark World. This has one of the major thread points that lead directly into the second Avengers movie, which is that Shield is now unraveling and Hydra is back and better than ever. Steve and Natasha take refuge in Sam Wilson's home, where this is also the film where he gets introduced, and Falcon also gets introduced, like his wings and stuff. One of my favorite scenes also in this film, is the iconic "On Your Left," which takes place early on, and so this is a major superhero thriller movie with many layers of espionage and emotional moments. One of my favorite movies of the MCU up to date, and it's because of the espionage, on the run superhero, but very much close to a spy movie, and not as flashy of a superhero movie as others. Fury nearly dies. Sam Wilson introduced. On your left scene, Steve and Natasha seeking refuge. All of this constantly happening, and in the post-credit scene to set up the Avengers Age of Ultron movie, we have Wanda and Quicksilver at a Hydra base. And so this is still holds a candle to the movies up to date, and it is number 4 in my favorite MCU movies as of now. So next is Guardians of the Galaxy, a very different Marvel movie up to this point. All right, so now we have Guardians of the Galaxy, written and directed by James Gunn, who is now the head of DC, but at the time was given the reins to completely take over this film and this franchise as a whole. And so this takes roughly around the same time as the Winter Soldier movie, but it doesn't really care about what happened on Earth at all because it takes place in outer space the entire time. It also doesn't care about the events of Asgard or Jotunheim as it's just in outer space. It's just a kind of like a sci-fi movie, really. So it's just a cosmic adventure where a band of like criminals form a team together to take down one of Thanos's generals or key individuals of the group. I don't know how to say it. And so we get a tease of Thanos to a very, very, very small degree. The Power Stone gets a major focus, as I think it's in among the first 5 to 10 minutes of the movie or so. This movie is not only known for how comedic it is, camaraderie, coming together, a band of misfits coming together to fight an evil foe. We get a movie flashback. No, not movie. Musical soundtrack flashback as Star Lord is jamming out to something from like the 80s or 90s. So this movie, in addition to Thor: The Dark World, it sets up a stone, but it has a better plot and it does better and it has a better cast overall. It introduces one of Thanos's like generals to a degree, one of his key enforcers, Ronan the Enforcer, and overall, I think this still holds a very good candle to the rest of the MCU. Guardians of the Galaxy is also one of my favorites. Phase 2 has a few of my favorite movies of the MCU ever. And so I absolutely love it. And so that is Guardians of the Galaxy. Next up is the second Avengers movie, the penultimate spot in the second phase of the MCU first saga, the Infinity Saga. Okay, so we have the penultimate spot of Phase 2. We have Avengers Age of Ultron, which takes place roughly a year after The Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy, since they basically take around the same time span. At the end of The Winter Soldier in a post-credit scene, we had Wanda and Quicksilver. So this movie takes place roughly a year after it sets the this movie sets the stage for a chaotic and out of balance Avengers team that is waiting and waiting and waiting to explode as Cap and Tony's ideologies very much clash and differ all throughout this movie as they did in the first one, but they're not amplified by an Infinity Stone. They're just shown very vividly that Cap and Tony ideologically in how they want to run this team or how they believe or their general beliefs in the world very much differ to a very, very big degree. So this movie starts off with a raid on a Hydra base as we learn that the Avengers have been going after Hydra rather recently. This shows the team at their absolute strongest in their initial group's best, as they haven't recruited anyone else yet. Vision, Wanda, Quicksilver, who is Pietro, Claw, and also Hawkeye has a secret family. All get introduced. Tensions are rising between Cap and Tony all throughout. Um, and so a lot pretty much happens in this movie. Tony and Bruce search to create an AI kind of person, and it becomes evil. and pretty much uses both of their IQs and smartness against them. And so this basically is the story part and climactic part of the end of Phase 2, but we still have much more of Phase 2 to go through, as we still have one more movie. So this is the story conclusion, but we still have another origin story in this phase, which is Ant-Man. Just Ant-Man. I was about to say Ant-Man Lost or Ant-Man Quantumania, but this is just Ant-Man as a movie. Alright, so the final film of Phase 2 is Ant-Man. This takes place sometime after Age of Ultron, not too long, and we see the first implications of the aftermath politically and what it has to do with the rest of Earth in the MCU. However, outside of a quick cameo from Sam Wilson as Ant-Man is adjusting to his Ant-Man suit, we don't really see anyone from the rest of the MCU in this film. We see Hank Pym, we see his daughter, I believe it's Hope Van Dyne. Is that his daughter? I believe it's... Yeah. We see Hank, Hope, Scott, Luis and friends, Cassie Lang, Scott's ex, all in this film. Scott's trying to rebuild his life, but is struggling, coming right out of prison, can't find a job that he can keep for all that long, and then he gets a job to steal Hank Pym's suit. And it turns out Hank was the one to hire him, so it was basically as a test. And he starts wanting to hire Scott for illegal activities. Yellow Jacket is the villain here, and also comes back to it somewhat later, much later, in Phase 4 of the MCU. Sam Wilson's the only other MCU character from another part of the MCU to come in here. This is the origin of Ant-Man without too much involvement of the rest of the MCU. This is what an origin story should be. If it doesn't need any more of the MCU or DCU involved, it shouldn't. It doesn't. If it doesn't need it, it shouldn't have it. Period. And so it is overall a good movie and unironically probably the best Ant-Man movie, even though it's the simplest. Who would have thought? Okay, so those are the second 6 movies of the MCU Infinity Saga, the second phase. It had 4 sequels, being Avengers Age of Ultron, Iron Man 3, the end of the Iron Man trilogy, the second Thor movie, Thor the Dark World, the worst Thor movie, or Thor 4 is the worst one. You can have a debate online about that, or in the comments down below about it. Captain America, The Winter Soldier, one of the best sequels ever, because normally the second movie or second book or second whatever in a franchise doesn't normally pan out to be as good as the first, generally speaking. And then we also had 2 origin stories, the origins of Ant-Man and the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And so that is going to wrap it up. So like the video if you've liked it so far. Subscribe if you want to get notified, and if you want to join the channel, become the 7th, 8th, I don't know. We're currently at 6 subscribers at the timing of this video filming, and so become one of the first 10 subscribers, or 20 if I actually get more than that by the time you watch this. Like this video, subscribe, comment below something you thought about this phase of the MCU. The next 2 videos for the rest of this upcoming week of videos will be a video ranking the Marvel Netflix shows, which are The Defenders, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, The Punisher, and of course Daredevil, which the Daredevil part will be shorter than the rest because I've already talked about Daredevil in a 30+ minute long video already. And so If you want to watch Phase 1, please watch it before you watch this. Have a good one. Before the second one, the Saturday video. This upcoming Saturday will be the Star Wars High Republic Phase 2. What are my thoughts? I literally just finished this. Finished the High Republic Phase 2 just a few days ago, so it's still rather fresh, and I still have a bunch of ideas and opinions about it. So, very much looking forward to that. See you in the next one.